I have a confession to make. Not too long ago, as a high school student who was in grade 11, I gathered the courage to ask my crush out. With optimism in my heart, I dared. But guess what? Despite my very, very careful planning, I still got flat out rejected. Undoubtedly, having this as my initial encounter with rejection during my adolescence, it felt significantly life-altering at that very moment of my young existence. But little did I know then that this very experience would go on to influence, motivate, and ultimately shape the TED Talk for which I stand before you today. Hi, I'm Richard, and here's my take on rejection. One thing about me is that I truly believe that when something is inevitable in life, it's better to focus on finding a healthy solution than trying to avoid it at all costs. But before we jump right in, quick question. Have you ever been rejected? See, that was actually a rhetorical question. Stating the obvious, of course, rejection is inevitable. Rejection is omnipresent and it is guaranteed to happen again. Not me, not you, not the person that's seated over there. No one's safe from it. After all, think about it. Who has not been rejected? Now, I want you to consider some of the most accomplished and well-established status and figures in society. A Grammy Award-winning singer and songwriter, SZA, who, despite her immense success in the music industry, is still grappling with rejection in her personal life. Take, for instance, the unparalleled J.K. Rowling, the mastermind behind the iconic Harry Potter franchise. Rowling faced the daunting challenge of overcoming 12 rejections from publishers before finally securing the destiny of Harry Potter as the cultural phenomenon it is today. Meanwhile, simultaneously navigating relative poverty as a widowed single mother. The good news is that she persevered and she made it through. The bad news is not everyone's story leads to a happy ending. So, why does rejection even matter? Who cares about getting rejected, right? People move on. Well, as I've mentioned earlier, it's inevitable. Rejection is omnipresent, and it can occur to anyone in various forms or incidents. In some cases, yes, it's not that big of a deal. But in some, it can be crippling because rejection can single-handedly shatter a person's drive and motivation to move forward, which can be catastrophic. Only the fortunate ones have acquired the abilities to be able to turn things around and become billionaires or saints right after stumbling upon rejection. Well, this is simply because all of us, we're different in many ways. The way we perceive situations differs from each other. Once a person gets rejected, their immediate instinct is to center around the idea that rejection equals failure. And that's where RSD chimes in. Rejection sensitive dysphoria, or rejection sensitivity, according to the University of Rochester Medical Center. When a person experiences severe emotional pain due to rejection, serious implications to an individual's psychological state will be unavoidable and imminent. Victims of this nature tend to become aggressive and resort to violence. In minor scenarios, let's take that your crush rejects you, you start going into a spiral. But then, when conflicts turn to inflictions, unimaginable things can happen. For instance, cases like these. Or a high school graduate taking their own life away because all the universities they've applied for had rejected them. Can you believe that there has always been this stigma surrounding success and societal expectations that further pressurizes us individuals to chase for a more flourished and more of a well-established status in society and as a figure? Yes, that means a great thing and that could mean a positive thing. But on the other hand, it can lead to negative consequences as well. Then, when conflicts turn to inflictions and when people face arduous battles like these, some people might simply just give up. This paralyzes and maims people into depression and isolation, ultimately bruising them as a recluse or a hermit of society. This aftermath can be linked to hikikomori, which is a form of social withdrawal due to a rise in the severities of these emotions. You'll come across some cultures that lack sensibility or proper understanding of rejection and its complexities. They perceive it as a point of no return from failure. The idea of rejection is deeply intertwined with pride, and that has often led to tragedies, causing rejection's livid consequences. In some other cultures, where therapy or a literal shoulder to rely on isn't widely available, people fail to overcome rejection. They explode. And when they explode, it affects them and it affects the people that's surrounding them. It is to no surprise then that crime rates, divorce rates, mental illness rates, and suicide rates spike. And conventionally, the general happiness and economic regression will come to be negatively impacted on a global scale. Now that's why rejection matters. Yes, rejection is scary. And you're not the only person that's feeling this fear. Although I'm still 16 and living my life relatively freely, I've had my fair share of experiences coming to terms with matters like death and rejection through my intrusive thoughts or heavy contemplation at times. It soon became clear to me that it's much easier to approach and embrace the scary truth of life with acceptance and openness because it just makes life much less scary. Now, I understand and I'm aware that it's easier said than done. But psychologically, once we are rejected, it activates our fight or flight mood. But with fear lingering around us, we'll certainly pick flight instead of fight. Because once we are settled comfortably in our own little bubbles, started to become hesitant to venture around, this thing called cognitive processing plays a role in avoiding situations where rejection is a possibility. And if we succumb to this habit, all those opportunities that we will miss out on could be priceless, irreplaceable. Temporary painful experiences, like rejection, can be extremely crucial, vital, pivotal, and integral in our self-development and growth as a human being. Once we're rejected, it doesn't always have to calamitously end in a terrible way. Of course not. And I'm here to help you put things into perspective. So in order for us to prevent these hardships, here's Richard's How to Combat Rejection 101. Trust me, I've been there before, and I've done my research. So it's only right for me to impart these ways and hacks instead of gatekeeping them for myself, right? Because what's the point? All right, let's get this started. Number 1, keep in mind that it's a universal experience. Everyone you know, everyone you look up to, your friends, family, teachers, celebrities, the person that's seated right next to you, everyone in this room has experienced rejection. Rejection will be there along the way in life with everyone and anyone, irrespective of success or failure. There were times that I pretended like it didn't exist, and that didn't help either. Soon it became clear to me that I can't escape or outrun it. It's just a matter of how to grapple and make the most out of it, because remember, it's not about the reaction, but instead the response. In some ways and others, rejection is a universal experience. But as we already know, we can't escape, we can't outrun it, it's inevitable, you can't avoid it. Moving on to rule number 2. Handle rejection with beauty and grace. Now, I want you, the next time whenever you get rejected, to look at rejection as a handwritten invitation letter for you to grow, because there's just so much value there. Every single time that you get rejected, it unveils a brand new door filled with opportunities that will help you accumulate more opportunities than being accepted could ever possibly garner. In parallel, as I was forced to shift my own perspective for my own sake due to some reasons, here are a few, I started to build long-term respect for myself. We will be proud of ourselves for the way we handle such harsh situations. And in parallel, we will build long-term respect for ourselves. And yet, ourselves, will be proud of ourselves for not succumbing to the temptations of exploding and not only posing harm on ourselves, but on others as well. It is an immeasurable opportunity for us to better ourselves as individuals. Rule number 3, make a plan. Process the situation and figure out your next plan of action. All I did was restructure my blueprint so that I can continue to go on the path that I desired to go on. And if you're wondering, okay, so how could I possibly execute this? How could I possibly implement it in my own personal life? Well, set goals for yourself and pair them with a SMART objective, like I did, or any other ways to structure what you're trying to achieve. To channel your energy elsewhere and to sublimate. Pick up a hobby. I started blogging and vlogging. Maybe even grab a journal along the way, because these are all proven strategies to help recalibrate your mind and energy towards a successful outcome. Even during the planning of this talk, I've encountered a handful of rejections, like that incident from the beginning of my talk about my crush rejecting me, yes, and all those instances I provided throughout the entirety of my talk. It soon became clear to me that rejection will always be there with me along the way in life. But not only that, maybe once I graduate my high school years and started to enroll for my university application processes, once life decides to throw at me with harsh rejections, which reminds me of the quote, "Once life gives you lemons, make lemonade." Yeah, not only that, as we reach to the end of my voyage to rejection's philosophy, I hope that all of us collectively can come together to embrace rejection and turn things around for each of us, no matter what our individual challenges in life may be. Thank you.